Welcome to the Lead Generation World podcast. My name is Michael Ferree. I am the founder of Lead Generation World, and I appreciate you joining us today for one of our first podcasts, which will also have video, obviously. We've got a great guest today, and I hope you enjoy it. Before we get in, don't forget we've got registration prices for Lead Generation World at $295 right now, right there. And that will not last long. Great deal, tons of value for that price. So make sure you register as soon as possible before that price goes up. But otherwise, thank you for joining the podcast today. Let's get started and bring in our guest. Well, welcome, Joey Liner, to the Lead Generation World podcast. Thanks for joining me today. It's nice to be able to do face-to-face video, which is cool because usually in the past we've done just the voice recordings only. So now we get to torture people with them having to stare at our mugs for the next 45 minutes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very good to be here with you, Mike.
Yeah, and you were just so as some people know, I'm based out of San Diego, California, and you're in Scottsdale, and you were just you took a little vacation out here a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes, it was an awesome time with the family out in Mission Beach and San Diego, Pacific Beach, La Jolla. We just had a great time getting out of heat here in San Diego or in Scottsdale and coming to San Diego so we could enjoy the good weather and the beach and just having a good time.
Yeah. And you're with Digital Media Solutions, which is out of Clearwater, Florida, right?
Another great destination place. Yeah, great beach, one of the top beaches in the country. And yeah, we have 8 offices throughout the country, so I'm very fortunate to have different locations I can travel to and meet with the staff, and very, very cool spots in the country. So it's cool to get around.
Yeah. Before we jump into Digital Media Solutions, I kind of want to jump into a little bit of your history. Obviously, you're an industry veteran, been a part of the quote unquote lead gen industry since 2003, I guess. Is that about right?
Yeah, I started at the end of 2002, and my friend Jason Goldsmith, who to this day I give credit, got me into the space. He was building out a mortgage lead generation company that was, basically selling leads at the time to brokers, small, medium-sized shops, and essentially at the time we were delivering leads either via fax sheets, or we were also sending out spreadsheets once a day. At noon, we would deliver the daily batch of leads. But I learned a lot about lead generation from Jason, and still to this day, one of my best friends. And then he introduced me, and Sean Fenlon was working for him, and some other good folks that, Ben Levy, Jeff Say, still good friends of mine today, and good to be able to start in the space. And then we evolved into Double Positive in 2004. After the loan page sold, Jason sold the business, and we joined. Sean and I started Double Positive with Syed Zaidi and Jeffrey Say, and built out a warm transfer, or at the time we called it a hot transfer, to deliver to the mortgage client base.
Yeah, let me just hold off for a second. I'm curious to know what you remember of the lead generation business in 2003, 2004. We get a kick out of hearing that, leads were sent via fax and one at a time, I guess, or obviously a little bit easier just to batch them over in an Excel file. But, what was it like with regards to lead quality, expectations, and the business back then, if you recall?
Yeah, it was very interesting at the time. We had it was just an environment that enabled us to, sell pretty much any record that we were able to accumulate. I mean, that was the time where there wasn't really online validation. We were generating inquiries, and we did work with publishers that we met, that we were able to some still have relationships with today, or some that just got into performance marketing at the time, like a Publishers Clearinghouse was a good partner of the loan page at the time. But we essentially were just, there was no validation, there was no scoring, there was no TCPA. In fact, the do not call list wasn't even out yet. So as far as, I think that came about, in the mid 2000s when Bush put that in play, the Bush administration. But yeah, but it was just, it was very exciting for me to learn and see an expansion of the mortgage space. That was kind of what everybody the first refinance wave in our generation. And it taught me a lot, and it taught us all a lot. And I think we started learning more about the big retail shops and the ability to work with large call centers. And that's when we really came out with the idea of the hot transfer and how we wanted to pivot into that delivery mode for the future of our business.
And so you guys obviously noticed that people were having a hard time with closing leads or started to demand maybe phone calls. How did you guys come across, shifting from a fax, so to speak, to, then evolving double positive into calls?
Well, it was more of just, we had one of our largest buyers at the time had come to us and just said, look, if the loan officer, just becoming more and more, there was no barriers of entry. Everybody was joining to become a loan officer because there was a lot of money to be had. The AmeriQuest, the New Centuries, the Centexes of the world were just growing at astronomical rates. And, one of those guys came to us and said, hey, we really need help with contacting these leads. We don't have good oversight of our call center and performance and loan officers. At the time, if you remember, there wasn't, Velocify, or at the time Leads 360 had started, but there wasn't really a good place to manage your leads yet and have the workflow outbound at a call center level at the dialer, where we have a dialer sophistication today, like your company and some of the other folks that, are working in the space where we have calling solutions. But, we basically got the idea from one of our clients where just the pain point was stressed that they just couldn't get the consumer on the phone. And they said, look, if you could get this consumer on the line for us, we'll pay you a premium. And then that's kind of where Sean ran with the idea of building out the business for hot transfer. And that's, when he sat down with me and Syed and Jeffrey and started Double Positive in 2004.
Yeah. And so tell me the story, because prior to then, hot transfer or warm transfer wasn't really a term, right? Or was it?
No, it wasn't. It's, if you take a little, if you go into Google today and type in warm transfer, hot transfers, you can have pages and pages of listings of companies that have that offering. And under, at the time, it was very forward thinking. Obviously companies use call centers for outreach or customer service, but it wasn't to the magnitude of a workflow process to enhance your lead to a qualification that, would advance to a sales rep, like a loan officer. So at the time, there wasn't really anybody doing it, at least commercially. I think there was companies that did it internally maybe, but there wasn't the technology that probably supported it at the scale that there's there today.
Yeah. So somehow, you guys coined the term hot transfer. Was that initially what you guys called it, or was it something else?
Yes, we did call it a hot transfer. And then I think that just basically that stuck for a bit, but I think the industry over the next couple of years, basically probably the mid to late 2000s, kind of preferred the warm transfer as the, kind of the more, the term that kind of stuck with everybody else. So we kind of adapted more to that. I love hot transfer, but I think the folks, I guess, in mortgage or education just kind of preferred warm. So that was it. And that's kind of what stuck today. It's still kind of, people still talk about that as a warm transfer, out there today with the handoff.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we get into DMS and other things, where do you see, because you've seen the evolution of calls and leads over those number of years, where do you where do you sort of see it now? Are companies taking a lot of it in-house? Are they still outsourced? Is there still a need? I mean, because when I see some verticals, it's all about getting a call. It's all about an inbound call, period. They just don't want anything else. And then there's some that are data and they want to take the calls and do them themselves. Where do you see sort of calls in general, or that business model, a double, maybe not necessarily a double positive business model or warm transfer business model, but where do you see calls these days going?
Well, I still think they're growing at pretty solid rate, and digital advertising in general is just growing at just amazing rates year over year. And I think calls a big piece of that, because you enable, obviously there's traditional advertising like direct mail, TV, radio, where you're going to have the consumer try to call in as an event, to get to a customer service rep or sales associate. But there's a lot more click to call going on from mobile or desktop. And I think, the consumers, it just is a general theme that I'm seeing across all the verticals that we participate in DMS, but just more of what's in the online digital advertising space, is that, some consumers, you have to give them the power to communicate to, back with you when it's convenient for them, and so as I've grown up within the space, a lot of companies would just try the spray and pray outbound model, pound the phone and just constantly try to get a hold of the consumer when it was convenient for the sales rep, right? So they would just say, I'm trying to call Mr. Smith. I'm going to keep calling him. I'm going to call him 5 times a day, 10 times a day. And quite frankly, I think that's what would put a lot of these new laws or regulations in place, because of just the overwhelming nature of outreach from these call centers. And so I think in today's world, giving the consumer power to contact you via their preference, whether it's text, email, call-ins, whatever is important, or convenient for them, is got to have to work for the advertiser that's trying to do business with them. And I think, as you probably know and can imagine, artificial intelligence is really evolving so much around us, and it will continue to around us as we look the advancement of digital advertising and how that's applied within our space. And right now we're seeing a lot of conversational text, with artificial intelligence really grow. And I think that's empowering the consumer to communicate via text. Some folks are open to that. And a lot of these systems really have good conversations with text where you feel like you're actually talking to somebody live. And so that may be the new, warm transfer, where you're just talking to somebody live right there. And eventually you're trying to get them on the phone or to a sale, of course, but it gives them the comfort to talk to you in their preferred method, which is, again, text. It seems like it's growing, and let's see where it takes us from here.
Yeah. We were at a sort of an executives meetup, 5-6 months ago. And one of the things that sort of came up was, the calls and what best practices is around contacting a lead. And someone sort of said, and I don't know if it meant literally or not, but was that sort of speed to contact was no longer really the most important thing out there. I don't know. I wouldn't argue. I would probably say that it still is important. But his point was that, being necessarily the first doesn't mean anything anymore, because people just aren't picking up their phone potentially. And so it's another, message or a text message, whatever it is. What do you think about that statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it was gospel for a period of time, into the mid to late 2000s and even the early 2000s, or 2011, 12, 13, et cetera, where we saw companies like Velocify really take the MIT case study that a lot of folks within our space referenced as speed to contact was essential for online transactions to Velocify had it under a minute, and I think that really woke up everybody within the mortgage space and ultimately education, insurance, some of the other verticals. But the consumer, the race to get to the consumer is still very important in today's business, but I don't think it's essential. I think because a lot of companies are putting a lot more value-added content out there, whether it's email, whether it's site content, whether they're texting consumer more information about their company. So I think sometimes it's okay to give the consumer a minute to breathe, right? Why, after they click submit, are you essentially overwhelming them, where this may be a big transaction in their life that, is a big life cycle decision-making process. And you may want to give them the ability to absorb that and understand that. And some companies prefer to come in later into the play, where you can, you understand where the rate is of, what you have to beat, or what's on the mind, or what's been told to the consumer. So some of the better sales reps prefer to come in later in the sale, in the process to be able to use their craft, to their ability to get that sale. But yeah, I don't think it's as essential as it is today, because everybody has a dialer. Everybody's, calling right away. And if your phone rings, 5 times from 5 different entities with under a minute, the consumer can only talk to one person. So how are you making that second attempt, third attempt valuable? Are you emailing? Are you texting? Are you, giving, like I said, the consumer the power to call you or communicate to you when it's preferred? And I think a lot of companies are adapting to that. And I think it's key so they get to the conversions that you need to for online transactions.
Yeah. It's interesting because we talked about this before, but it's, we have now calls, texts, even you can put in Messenger, messages from Facebook, or all these different really channels to communicate, email. It's almost like the problem that we have with omni-channel marketing was attribution. Now we have to figure out, it's like contact management attribution and focusing on what really works. Is it, do we attribute to that first call, the text message, where does it sort of come in from? And then at that point, a brand could probably focus in on what really makes the most sense from a communication standpoint. Is it the Facebook message? Is it the text? Is it the call? Is it, all those sorts of things that go into it. But, like you said just a few minutes ago, it's, back then you just throw a bunch of stuff out there and, see what works. But now, people are getting a lot more sophisticated, especially with all these different options for contacting someone. Which leads me to regulatory issues, right? So one of the big things with all this contact, different strategies, is obviously regulations. For the last couple of years, you've been heading up the LeadsCouncil as their chairman of the board. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are working on now, and what the heck the LeadsCouncil is doing, and what you do, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's been actually a great year for the council. I think we had some pretty good goals in regards to adding some buyers to our board. As board was assembled with mainly service providers or lead generators. And, one of the big missions that myself and the fellow board of directors had was to really bring some balance. We needed to hear from big brands and buyers to make sure that we added that, level of credibility to our association, because we needed to make sure that, especially with the regulators, they need to hear from the brands. They need to understand the advertisers are doing business the right way, and want to make sure that they comply with the law. And, that really helps us gain more attention from the regulators, because we have some of these buyers now more involved. And so here with the council, there's a lot of topics that are, there was a misconception within our space that, the Trump administration is going to come in and they're going to be very easy on regulation, and, everybody can just go crazy. It's going to be the wild, wild west, and that's to some extent, there's been a little bit of that maybe in some of the verticals that we're in, a little bit more open nature in the education space, and even more CFPB is kind of backed off a little bit in some regards, but in some regards they've actually stepped on the gas in some instances. And we're working closely with, we're trying to work with regulators, keep track, at the national level. We're seeing robocalls be a key initiative across the board with the government, and, having that stop. And it's, a lot of bills have recently just pushed through the House that we're keeping a close eye on. In addition to, we're working with one specific regulator who, I won't say their name, but, it's very good for us. We've actually made some traction in working with understanding consumer funnels and flows and bad practices, and putting consumers in products that just don't make sense. and I think that's one thing that we want to make sure to convey to regulators is that we don't stand for that either as a council, and we want to make sure that we help get rid of that because it's not good for any of us, and something that we really want to make sure that we're a part of in helping companies within our space do business the right way.
Yeah, and lead generation world is pretty excited to have LeadsCouncil part of the show. You guys will have a session. I think we're working on it now, but are going to cover robocalls and some other things that are coming up in January with some other regulations, California specifically, and be talking a little bit about that. But it's important for lead generation world that's trying to really cultivate a community that we support what you guys are doing too. And I suggest any company that's really serious about participating in lead gen, performance marketing, or you're an ancillary service to the industry, that you really either join the LeadsCouncil or follow closely.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, we've had tremendous success this year as the council. Our executive director, Rob Seaver, has been traveling to, countless, shows where we've actually been able to spend more time, whether it's industry specific like mortgage or insurance or education, or, broader where it kind of covers the online digital space in different verticals or categories. We've been able to really get out there and put the word out and hear from our base and understand what's important to them, and make sure that we have our bases covered, and that that they're getting the messaging out. And so we're excited for lead generation work. We're very, very excited. I know you've put a lot of time and effort into doing this show and changing the game. I think there's some great shows within our space, and we'll continue to go to those and we'll support those. But we're also very excited to be participating in lead generation world. I know you have some great ideas on really where to kick off the year strong at the show, and the council and Digital Media Solutions are very excited to participate because I know you're planning on some really good events.
Great. So let's talk about that. So just less than 7 months, you right? Or maybe you joined Digital Media Solutions, which is a pretty fast-growing company. And I believe Joe Marinucci, CEO, just did he get Entrepreneur of the Year or something? I saw some award maybe a couple months ago, but just doing some really, really great work with that company. And so tell us what's going on and what is Digital Media Solutions? What do you guys do? What do you not do? Is probably the better question. But tell us a little bit about DMS.
Yes, you're right. Joe did win the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award, which, as you probably know, is one of the more prestigious awards, a very hard award to win. It's a very long process to go through to win that award. So, but Joe will tell you firsthand, and he said it in his acceptance speech that, he wouldn't have got to that position without the staff supporting him and obviously the success the company's had. Well before prior to me joining, but I'm very excited to join this team. It's been a great 7 months. It's a big different, experience for me, just going from selling call center services at Double Positive and some agency services at Double Positive to sitting behind this major media conglomerate that does a great job of cross-channel solutions that are people, enabled. We work, and we have an amazing dream team that I like to refer to, just amazing team here at DMS that focuses, we do some first-party media buying. We have our owner-operated sites where we sell leads in about, 20 different paid sites, and those are all the industries like mortgage, education, personal lending, insurance, auto warranty, jobs, rewards. Our rewards advisor site just cracked 1 million registrations. So our product team, our media and product team has done a great job building out our owner-operated sites. And we do a lot of partnerships with those. We sell leads traditionally, but we also do a lot of partnerships on those sites for inventory or link outs, which is something, like I said, I've never sold before, which has been very exciting to bring my relationships and help my staff at DMS encounter. And then also we have a big, network that we bring publishers through email, push, SMS, native, listicles, where we're providing traffic to our clients' pages, which I think is, or to their customer funnels, which is something that is growing at an astronomical rate throughout our entire space. I think brands love buying leads and qualified leads, but at the same time, I think that they want to take more control of that process as well, and to have that traffic come to their pages where they control the process, the messaging, and still be able to pay in the format that they prefer, like a cost per lead or cost per acquisition, is very exciting. So we're seeing brands, big brands, adapt to that direct versus having just to go to the traditional leads model. A lot of brands are going direct to the affiliate networks to be able to build out more customer acquisition through digital, and it's very exciting. So we do that. We also have our own call center. We do some call center work, warm transfers through delivery to live interested consumers to our buyer base as well that are all, new customers. And so it's very exciting, and to be able to have all this under one roof. We really like to be a one-stop shop, and we're a solutions based provider. We, essentially what I mean by that is any advertiser that we run into, we have a solution that fits their pain points, because every advertiser that's growing still has a pain point that they need to resolve, whether it's that pain point could be just, we need more customers. And so we try to drill into what their need is, what their best outcome is, and spend time strategically digging in with them and adding a lot more value as well, besides bringing new customers. We have state-of-the-art technology, reporting. We provide analytics to our client base on their conversions. And really just, like I said, the people behind the work that gets done here is really what recognizes DMS, and why we're growing so fast is because a lot of advertisers recognize that, and it's nice to be able to see that we can work and dig deep with our accounts and help them grow the business.
Yeah, one of the things that a lot of brands, no matter what size, want traffic to their own site, right? That's always sort of a dream. They can capture it, and they don't have to worry about what happened on somebody else's website or all that sort of stuff. But even bigger than that is one of the, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things with brands going to third parties for third-party leads is just strictly limited scale. They just can't scale on their own and their own capabilities. So they simply have to utilize another source for leads, or another brand, whatever it may be. But what I hear you saying is that they could utilize a lot of this outside scale that they maybe don't have inside, but still drive it to their own brand, which is big. Because I talk with one of the biggest issues with any size companies is, how do we scale on a significant level? How do we get thousands of more subscriptions, or not just 10 or 20, but thousands, and how do we do that? And that becomes very difficult,
Yeah, that's actually, we just talked, through what we're doing, but at the same time, scale, like you said, is key, especially for a lot of growing companies. They don't have time to add 20, 30, 40, 50 different small publishers. And, you'll always hear the saying, be gospel, quality over quantity. But obviously growing companies need that to come together, right? There's the pendulum is always swinging in both, in different directions of quantity versus quality. But, we try to really work with the clients and optimize, whether it's disposition, feedback, reporting, that we can get back into and build a more strategic relationship. But you're right. I mean, they need the scale to grow. And it's very exciting to be able to sit down with an advertiser and tell them that we can actually move the needle. I've sat in front of so many different Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies that are really just saying to us, we don't have the time and vendor approval process. Look me in the eye, tell me you're going to make this work and move the needle. And that's really where DMS is rising to the top, and being able to provide that scale with the quality coming together. And it's very exciting to see.
Yeah. Before I let you go, first, thanks for spending the time out of your day to talk.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate it. But some things that, when we go to the industry shows, and people at Lead Generation World are becoming one of the things, and we see registrations coming in, and people, we ask the question, what what are you coming for? What are you looking for? And they say, well, we want to know what's new, right? And sometimes that means what verticals are hot, what technologies are emerging that are helping companies. But you guys, because you have so much scale and so much breadth of the sort of performance marketing landscape, I have to ask whether or not you have an answer for me. But are there, do you see any trends in specific verticals that are growing, that seem to be promising? You guys are in just about every vertical there is. So maybe I put you on the spot. And, is there anything that continues to grow that seems to be, good or emerging? I mean, we know and I'll stop filibustering here, but, we know the mortgage insurance and EDU and those, and insurance continues to be relatively consistent and a big vertical. Solar has its promise, but it's at maybe a certain scale that's limited.
Right.
So just I'm just curious. Is there anything that you can maybe give a little nugget of information or thought leadership on when it comes to that?
Yeah, no, of course. We are, like you said, the big three have always been prominent within the lead generation, the online lead generation space. Mortgage is about to go through another refinance wave with the most recent rate drop, and I think it's enabled a lot of consumers that were on the fence and couldn't get their deal done, or it just didn't make sense. Now this has kind of enabled a big push and wave of consumers raising their hands to go about and refinance. I think the insurance space, like you said, is pretty steady, and is continuously growing year over year, and should stay down that, on that track. So we at DMS, we're really building out our insurance vertical. That's something that myself and the product team, media team, we're all looking forward to building out. The sales staff is excited to grow relationships with a lot of different folks in the insurance space. And life insurance has actually been really, really big for us already today through traffic and partners. We've been able to scale there as it stands. So health is also very, very big, and home. So auto, all those four are very still prominent within and still growing. And then education is still pretty solid. You're seeing some consolidation in the for-profit education space, but some of the companies are gaining a lot more market share, affiliating themselves with the nonprofit side of the education sector. So it allows them to build that presence on the nonprofit side and communicate to consumers in that fashion. And I think we're seeing that evolve in front of us. And I think you'll see more traditional schools get into digital advertising as they stand today, like with outreach, like companies like Trilogy and 2U continue to grow as well and create this boot camp type of environment. And then, there's other personal lending is still very, very prominent. Debt, the amount of debt that's being racked up by Americans is at an all-time high. So I think, debt settlement, if it's done properly in companies that, are regulated, are growing and will continue to grow and gain, that's going to, Americans need some assistance and help there. And we're, like I said, we're helping folks in all those categories, but we're also doing, like I said, jobs, rewards, and that's also will continue, travel. Those industries will continue to grow as we see the economy hopefully shape back up into a position where consumer spending goes up, and then we can look at some other offerings out there. But we're working in about 12 to 15 different categories today, and really excited to see us grow within those categories.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for joining. If anybody wants to find out more information about LeadsCouncil or yourself, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So yeah, you can find more about me on LinkedIn. Just look me up with Joey Liner. Digital Media Solutions website. Just go to digitalmediasolutions.com. You can also feel free to shoot me an email, jliner@thedmsgrp.com. So it's not all spelled out group. It's just thedmsgrp.com. Happy to work with you or have one of our great sales executives talk through your solutions needs. Like I said, that's one thing that we have the benefit at DMS is we're not pushing anything amongst any different partner or or brand. We want to make sure that you understand that we're here to, we're in for the long haul. We're going to help you grow your business and bring the right customer to you that's going to stick and the ones that's valuable to you. And so understanding your KPIs and your needs and really being able to help you to bring that customer acquisition channel that's key and need for you to grow. And so we're here to help you and not, let's say not push anything amongst you, but just really understand what your needs are, what your pain points are, and really help you solve them. So feel free to reach out to me. Happy to, work with you or put you in touch with the right person on my team. But we are very excited for the future. You're going to continuously see a lot of news and information coming out from us. And we have a newsletter you'd like to subscribe to. You can get that right on our site. We put a lot of good content out there, and we'll continue to push a lot of good content out to the space. And then the council, feel free to go to LeadsCouncil.org. We have a lot of good information there. We have a lot of events that we're attending upcoming. And I think, like I said, feel free to grab some time with us. The lead generation world, we're going to have a forum where Mike is going to enable us to talk to you, and you'll get a good understanding of compliance 101, or where our industry is right now, where our time and attention is, and where you can contribute. So if you'd like to contribute to the council and for the better good of our space and the future of our space, please don't hesitate to reach out to Rob Seaver. He'll be happy to start those conversations with you as well. So lots of ways you can get in touch with us, but I really appreciate the time, Mike, and I can't reiterate how excited we are to join Lead Generation World as LeadsCouncil and DMS. DMS is one of the flagship featured sponsors. I've been a longstanding friend of you, and I know that you have put a lot of your heart and passion and emotion behind the focus of this show. Leads is still very, very prominent, only growing within our space. And whether that's driving traffic to a client's page or generating it from a lead generator, it's important for us to continue to get together, make sure we're doing things the right way, and making sure advertisers have a forum where they can talk to partners and make it easy for them to do that. And I think you're on the right path, and I was excited to hear about the show, and I believe in you, and I'm excited to see where you're taking this, and I'm really looking forward to the build up to the show as well. So,
awesome.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome, Joy. Well, I really, like I said, I really appreciate all the kind words. Thank you very much. And thanks for joining me here. And hopefully we can do it again soon.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of the summer, everybody. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Joey.